Is anybody getting tired yet of the Clem videos? I feel like I've been featuring him on the channel every second, maybe third, maybe fourth day over the last couple of weeks. Anyways, there's quite a few more games that I want to go ahead and cast. And well, our first one here is going to take place on the map Equilibrium. Spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have none other than Clem. The man who's considered to be the #1 Terran in the world. He's actually very close to even overtaking Cero on Aligulek, which is insane. Cero has been solidly in that #1 position for years. It's kind of ridiculous as far as rating goes. Clem and Cero are getting ridiculously close to one another. His opponent in the top left, playing with the blue Protoss pieces. He's a teammate of Cero and Raynor. We're looking at none other than Trigger's main Nexus. I have featured Trigger a couple of times on the YouTube channel, but I feel like I should feature him a little bit more. In my mind, he is almost like the next generation of Protoss players from America. You know, we have players like, for example, Neep. Aww, a little bit of a worker kiss right here at the start of this game. We have historically had players like, for example, Neep. Neep no longer plays the game. He decided to, I don't know, do something else with his life. I think he went off to university and decided to essentially just retire. Maybe with another RTS. I've heard this many times before, okay? Either players come back to StarCraft 2 or they come back to some other game in the future as well. We'll see. Now, we obviously currently have players like, for example, Estrella, who are still at the top of the North American StarCraft 2 scene. Trigger is from Canada, and he's been making some very solid improvements, and he's certainly winning against, well, some of the very best American players. For example, with the most recent major tournament that we had in North America, the North American Regionals of the ESL Masters, he ended up taking down Special in, I want to say, the quarterfinals? Maybe it was the semifinals, actually. I think he won 3-1 at the time. Honestly, really well played by Trigger, and Special obviously has been, well, I don't want to say dominating the American regions, but he's been very good, especially obviously in South America and Latin America for many, many years. So Trigger, certainly somebody you want to keep an eye out on. Plus, I mean, he's from the Americas, right? And I know that about half my viewers are from the Americas as well. I don't know if we can, no, I was gonna say, we shouldn't be playing the American National Anthem at the beginning of this video. That'd be weird, especially since Trigger is from Canada. That would make absolutely no sense. But I do know that some of you, at the very least, would appreciate that. Maybe I should just cast every single one of my videos with the American Anthem at the start of it. Bad idea. Anyways, nice little bit of competition here between these two. In my mind, though, Clem is certainly the favorite. So, Clem has recently really gotten a new surge of confidence since he won that StarCraft 2 tournament back in December, the last premier event of 2023, and he really did do an amazing job. Honestly, stellar gameplay by him, no cheese, no shenanigans, just better than the rest of the competition, right? Which is exactly the way that you want to win premier events in StarCraft 2. And ever since Clem won that tournament, he just seems to be on another level. I'm trying to think what the difference is. I've already brought this up in a previous video, but I think it's really just his confidence. Years and years and years, he's been very good, but he didn't quite bring it home at offline tournaments, right? So he's been very strong online, but then, yeah, winning offline tournaments when you're actually there at the venue and you're not playing, you know, from the comfort of your own home, and you have to use another setup, and you have to play on a stage, and when you look right next to your monitor, you see a crowd and all that. So we do, by the way, have a very quick gold base right here for Trigger. You love to see it. He's going for a blink opener. Anyways, recently, it seems like Clem has, yeah, gained a surge of confidence, and it's been working out very nicely for him. A little bit of a skill check right here coming in. Yeah, not going to happen. Immediately decides to retreat, but of course, this is what Terran players love to do. They just sort of hang it out over there in the corner. If it's not a Stargate opener, there's always a chance that it will be coming in at a later time when Protoss does not expect it, and oftentimes it still deals a lot of damage. Now, I heard that this particular game is a banger. It was played as part of the WTL, so I guess we'll find out together exactly what ended up going down. Pretty passive early game, though, from both players. Yeah, this is an expand off of only 2 gateways. Blink is going to finish up, but this is a very defensive version of the Blink opener. So you can go for a Blink opener with anywhere between like 2 to 4 gateways. 3 if you want to go like middle of the pack, you can do a little bit of damage and a little bit of defense. Usually 4 gateways if you want to be very aggressive. 2 gateways is a great indicator that you want to play that macro game. And at this point, even though I don't think Clem really realizes exactly what he's playing against because he hasn't seen the golden base, He must realize at this point that something is not quite right, because that Protoss player is being very passive. When you've seen this many units as well inside of the main base, it's also pretty clear that they're not really ready to be sending everything across the map. So maybe he's been set up right here to deal with a 4-gate, but I don't think he's really going to need it. Obviously, he doesn't really want to unsiege the tanks and salvage the bunker and all that just yet, because that would be a risk if this is like a delayed attack here from our Protoss. Now he's seen one of the probes at the very least. Well, there's another probe, so I'm assuming, I was gonna say, there's no way he did not pick up on that, right? That would be ridiculous. Okay, he now knows what he's playing against, but there's already a shield battery set up. So he's not really gonna take a whole lot of damage. Bit of lost mining time, I guess, but nothing all too significant. Clem actually purposely patrolling this back and forth. I quite like that. So he knows that there's likely an observer. He may have spotted the little blur right there of the observer. And when this thing is on the minimap, right? So obviously Trigger is not going to be looking at this medevac on the minivec. He's not going to be looking at the medevac on the minimap. I wanted to somehow combine the words medevac and minimap into one word. That's a new word. Anyways, he's not going to be paying attention to it too much. And I guess when it's moving around like that, it's just a little bit harder to register when it's boosting into your main base, because it's already moving. Yeah, I actually think that's quite clever. It's a very minor thing, but how many games have I casted where Protoss just suddenly loses 17 probes to a double Widowmine drop, and that's the end of the game? May as well go ahead and mix in a little bit of a patrol command if you assume your opponent has good vision of you anyways. Alrighty, now this is a big attack right here for Clem. He's finished up his basic upgrades. The golden trio of upgrades right there for Terran. Don't lose the Colossus. Well, he's hunting for it right now. It's going to be sacrificed, just trying to deal as much damage as possible. But at the very least, it also forced that Terran army to move a little further forward than the original plan was. So ultimately, Trigger does end up sniping the siege tank there, and he does shut down. Okay, a lot of that aggression. Okay, medevac also takes another shot, and it's going to be difficult for this thing to stay alive. So medevacs have 150 life, 3 stalkers apparently dealt enough to bring it down to 82 hit points, meaning that it's gonna need, well, 2 additional volleys right here from those stalkers to snipe it. But I don't actually know if that, I don't think it can make it into the mineral line here if these stalkers are on idle over there. I think that the medevac would be shot out of the sky before it would get even close. Another medevac drop, moving down towards the southern section of the map. These have very much so become skill checks. The top level Protoss players don't seem to take that much damage, usually, against Widowmine drops. But obviously it may just win you the game if they're not paying attention at the perfect moment, right? So, especially when there's a lot of chaos. When you're, for example, dealing with a Raven. Good snipe right over there on that thing. Hello? Clem? Wow. Alright. Clem probably thinks he's got this queued up. Whoa, this is actually the biggest oversight that I've seen in a while. What a strange interaction. I think Trigger assumed that that was an empty medevac. Because that was uncharacteristic. That is not the way we normally see Clem playing the game. Clem is a very fast player. And there's not that much going on at the moment. Maybe he assumed he shift queued it elsewhere. And I think Trigger probably gave him the benefit of the doubt. Widowmine drop right now goes into the main base as well. That one's been chilling for a bit. And ultimately, that is 16 workers going down. Now, this is 16 workers at the 9-minute mark, which is not quite the same as it hitting at the, well, perfect timing, but there's no denying that this still is certainly going to hurt Trigger quite a bit. It might trigger, that's what I'm saying. What a strange sequence of events, though. I really think that Trigger was just simply calling the bluff there, right? Like, he assumed that that was an empty medevac, quote-unquote, drop. He does get a couple of the medevacs as well, so at least... no, actually, it's only been a single one. Interesting. Where did that other medevac go? Did it just fly all the way back home? Yeah, there it is. 82 hit points. I recognize that smug face from any... Amazing. Would never forget about it. Okay, Zealot. Okay, doing that little Serral split right there against that Widowmine. At least I think of that as the Serral split with the Zerglings. This choke point, yeah, difficult to push into. The Colossi can deal a lot of damage though, so... Trigger is almost inviting his opponent to get into the concave here, so he can have all of his units deal as much damage as possible. I think he can actually go for a push. That is a very scary Protoss army. Scan right there does reveal what I think was an observer. Immortal over here. Walking backwards. Ultimately, he has to turn around. One of the Colossi falls against the Vikings. 2 additional robo facilities coming up right here for Trigger. So he is ready to do that mass, I think, disruptor transition. That is something we haven't really seen all too much over the last couple of months. Ever since the most recent multiplayer balance patch, they made the disruptor, well, a little bit weaker overall. It's just a little bit more supply heavy, so it's more expensive to produce it. And maybe it's going to be for Immortals instead. We'll have to see. Storm coming up. For a little while, though, right around, like, I want to say, right around Gamers 8. That was, like, the middle, I think it was, like, July of 2023. We used to see Protoss players commit to, like, 5, sometimes even 6 robo facilities, and they just pump out robo unit after robo unit. They would just go mass disruptor. And, well, the most recent patch just made that style a little bit more difficult to play. One of the goals of the most recent balance patch was to reduce the amount of splash damage in the game. So Disruptors got nerfed, Banelings got nerfed, and Widowmines got buffed. Why? I don't understand. Still don't get it. Why did Widowmines get a buff? I know it's mostly insignificant, but still. A little tone deaf in my mind. Sorry, I'm not going to shut up about the Widowmine situation, okay? I find the Widowmine, it's a fun unit to watch. But I have watched Widowmines win games now for, yeah, about 5-6 years. I do think it would be really nice to see maybe a little bit of a strength reduction. Anyways, it's a bit of a gimmicky unit. I've never been a fan of it. It's one of those units, the Disruptor, the Baneling, as well as the Widowmine. Those are units that are, I think, pretty fun to watch, because big explosion, big, you know, damage, wow. But at the same time, it's very frustrating to play against. I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing just a general strength reduction in splash damage on the whole in SC2, to be honest. Parasitic Bomb also incredibly powerful. You don't pay attention? Boom. Everything dies. I have less problems, I guess, with Sonic Storm. But maybe that's also because it's one of those iconic spells from StarCraft 1, right? But yeah. Future RTS games, I think they will have to be very careful with the amount of splash damage that they introduce to the game. Because in StarCraft 2, oftentimes if you're playing a match and you're hearing, your forces are under attack, you look back, your forces are already dead. The amount of splash damage in SC2, yeah, it's, you have about half a second to respond at the absolute most. I'm not even exaggerating, you gotta be so cautious. Anyways, speaking of playing cautious, both of these players are tiptoeing around each other. We're 13 minutes into it, and neither of them really wants to take a big commitment. Now there's, yeah, Ghosts in the mix as well, so a lot of damage being done. Good storms over there in the choke point, but EMP does finish off the energy right there on those Templar, at least the leftover energy that was still around. 4 command centers coming up right here for Clem. Look at that. Once upon a time, we used to criticize Clem's defensive capabilities. He would be one of those Terrans who was just in your face the entire game long. No longer the case. He's more than happy to play that long drawn-out macro game if he needs to. Tactical nuke even coming up. That is not something I've seen all too much as of late. I feel like they've really fallen out of popularity a bit. Alright. Hopefully this is not one of those nukes where it's just sort of sitting there in the Ghost Academy the entire game long. We've seen a bunch of those as of late where they just sort of get it because they have a lot of resources and then they never actually use it. I'm a fan of the nuke. I think it's cool. That's the type of splash damage I can get behind. Ghost trying to get the snipe right there on the Templar for just a moment. Bit of a dance here back and forth between the Ghosts and the High Templar. High Templar now in the Prism again. Gravitic Drive has kicked in, so that Storm, yeah, it's gonna be landing on that Terran army quite quickly. Immortals here putting in a lot of work though. There's so many Immortals. Oh my god. I thought for a second it was gonna be for Disruptors, but no. Not a single Immortal has gone down. I guess that explains the name. We're up to 11 of them. Usually Immortals in this game are quite mortal indeed, but unless I didn't see it properly? No, not a single Immortal has gone down just yet and the unit's lost step. Planetary Fortress is gonna get killed as well. Great snipe right there by Trigger. He backs off and tries to get to safety. Now, we have 7 Liberators on the production tab. So Clem is looking at this army and he's like, yo, you know what this army is really bad against? flying units that can siege from a distance. Will Trigger make that transition towards Tempest? That's the question. A lot of Protoss players are not comfortable playing that transition towards Tempest. Instead, what they like to do is run around the map and essentially make it so that... Oh, nice storm here once again. Trying to kill the orbital command right now. They tried to bypass the Liberators rather than fight them head on, so they just kill them with like stalkers and stuff and just try to outmaneuver the Terran instead. We'll see what Trigger is currently favoring. Advanced Ballistics is about halfway done at this point. That's the ranged upgrade for those Disruptors. Now this is dealing a ton of damage though. Yeah, Stalker's still, well, at least getting underneath. It's such a delicate maneuver. So he is gonna double down on Stalkers, it seems. I don't see a +1 upgrade. I don't really see much of anything. He's taken every base on his side of the map, with the exception of the one all the way in the top left. Albeit, yeah, there's not enough workers available for that sort of stuff at the moment. But I think Trigger's plan is to essentially almost like soft contain the Terran here on the amount of bases that he's got and try to overwhelm him. So he's taking the very Zergy approach of fighting a Turtle Terran here. Caduceus Reactor research right now as well here for the Terran. That's the upgrade that recently replaced the Medevac speed improvement. It's no longer around because nobody used it. Caduceus Reactor, also not super common, but powerful in the right situation, and I agree, this does seem to be the right situation. Liberators, though, sieging onwards. One Templar here ends up going down. Alright, nice bit of damage overall, though. But the Liberator count is growing. We're up to 9 right now, with 6 just about to pop. That's a lot of Liberators. Maybe Clem heard me about that American anthem I was talking about earlier. Liberation is at hand. Okay, well that's a little bit of a ambitious liberation right here. Although it may very well result in these Liberators getting into Terran's main, or into the Protoss' main rather. Okay. Clem has done an excellent job though, replacing any lost command centers and replacing any lost ground. Once again, yeah, getting all of these things going, saving that command center as well. He's got so many orbital commands. 9 orbitals for this matchup is actually kind of nuts. So, yeah, despite the fact that he's only lost 8 workers, his economy, man, it's off the charts here. So that's also one of the reasons why Clem's army is so massive right now. Trigger can very quickly warp in a lot of additional reinforcements, but he is going to put down a Stargate. A very aggressively positioned Stargate. Looks like a Liberator ended up going down here at the bottom. Lib in the main base, still just trying to be annoying. Storm once more goes down. Liberators have found another group of Protoss units. Vikings end up shutting down that Prism too. I think Trigger is going to have to retreat. And this is what becomes very difficult for Protoss. When you do not really respect the Liberator army, the Liberators can tear you apart. So, if you do not make a transition towards Tempest, you have to essentially deal with the Liberators just with the army that Trigger has right now. Blinking underneath, it can work. You can run circles around the Terran army too. You can outmaneuver them because this Protoss army is quick. Okay, we have 1 Void Ray coming up. Yeah, mostly I guess just to try and deal with those Libs. Speaking of Liberators, over here also trying to be annoying. They're pretty expensive units. 12 of them have actually gone down over the course of this game, but you can tell here, the cost efficiency from Clem has been absurd. So Trigger has taken a very Zergy approach to this game. Can he contain this Terran army? I'm a little afraid that he is running out of juice here over the next couple of minutes. He does still have a decent economy himself, but I think I would have preferred this Protoss army as he does decide to commit. Prism goes down with full Templar inside of it too, so that's 4 Templar plus the Prism that die. Very painful. I think I would have rather seen Trigger sit here at like 85 to maybe 90 probes or so, just so he could reinforce this quicker. He's had a lot of bases, but not a lot of saturation, so yeah, despite the fact that he has to retreat right now, look, he's still going up to 16 out of 16 on that base. Good snipe right there on that expansion. In the meantime, though, Trigger going through the center of the map. Tactical nuke is going to be deployed. Ooh, there's a Dark Templar over here. The Ghost currently unscouted. Yeah, at this point, Trigger is busy microing over here at the top section of the map. It does get seen Ghost here does get sniped, but the nuke lands. At the very least, only a very small amount of probes ends up going down there. Liberator count still growing. Clem essentially going for like a full Sky Terran army here with Vikings and Liberators, and I honestly don't mind it. With +3, it's not even fully upgraded yet. Those units are going to be near impossible to stop if Trigger decides to stick around on a ground army himself. He cannot really blink into the Liberation Zone, so he is forced to just run back the entire time, and at some point you just have nowhere to run anymore. At some point, Trigger's army is going to be pinned with their backs against the walls. Either that, or I guess they go across the map, which is an option, but this is very risky. Lovely play right here from Clem. Slow pushing with the Liberators, slow pushing with the rest of his army. That Nexus will be killed on the retreat. A couple snipes over here, attempted at the very least on those Ghosts. Or by the Ghosts, rather, on those Templar, which I guess are basically the Protoss Ghosts. Nexus goes down. This Nexus will fall as well in just a moment. In the meantime, Trigger going for a full-on counterattack. You love to see it. A lot of command centers very exposed. That hero Void Ray from earlier joining in the fray as well. Okay. Yeah, still, Liberators are so strong defensively here too. Trigger effectively has decided to play a low-tier army off of a small economy, which I don't really love. I think with 58 workers, he just doesn't have the bank to replenish this. Although we'll be able to shut down another command center here at the bottom of the map. Liberators have arrived though, so he's gonna have to run. Vikings do finally finish off that hero Void Ray from earlier too. A new Nexus is being produced in the spot where previously one was already standing. Yeah, the Liberators are dominating the battlefield. It is just not easy here for Trigger to really take an engagement. So we're talking 15 Liberators. We're having 6 additional Ghosts on the production tab too. This is Clem very much so countering his opponent's army, and Trigger, yeah, trying to play that map domination style. And it sort of works, but he's losing a lot more units than Clem is. So over the course of the last couple minutes, look at that. The differences here have been tremendous. Aggressive blink forward once again, but the Liberators re-siege. So Clem is going to force the Protoss to back off. In the meantime, though, Zealots have gone towards the other side of the map. They're killing some of those 6 new Ghosts that we just saw on the production tab. Double expand here, by the way, up north. So Trigger is happy to retake some of those mineral fields. Okay. Well, he's actually found a bit of an angle. A lot of those Terran flying units are running dangerously low on health. Whew, a few more storms here could have been amazing. Looks like this planetary fortress is gonna get the knight. Okay, there we go. Nicely done. I mean, Clem still has a lot of money in the bank, okay? That's like his main saving grace here. If he did not have 6,000 resources or more than that in the bank at the moment, I would have been a little concerned for him. Because he does have all this money, though, I think he's going to be happy to remax. And he will be remaxing here very rapidly with just more and more Liberators. So he did lose a bunch. Yeah, there's no parasitic bomb available for Protoss players, huh? If they had something like that, I think Trigger would be more than happy to play it. Vikings have to, yeah, force that prism to back off, because Storm is one of the scariest things that Clem has to deal with at this point. Dark Templar right now. I have found a new base. Okay. That is orbital command number 69, I think. I've seen so many of them. This Nexus will fall here at the bottom of the map. That's the one that had to deal with a tactical nuke. Maybe the lingering radiation here will slowly kill the Terran units. Who knows? Okay, counterattack over here. I do love the way that Trigger is maneuvering around the map, though. He's doing an excellent job. Is Clem going to back off? No. It looks like he has decided he wants to go after what was the 3rd base right here for Trigger. So that means he's going to give up a lot of structures at home. That's one orbital command going down. Another orbital command will fall. Liberators are produced over here, but there's currently only one set up on the ramp. Okay, more of them have come back home, apparently. Okay, so we're going to be using those for base defense, whereas the rest of the Terran army is moving forward. A lot of very low HP Terran units at the moment, but still enough to shut down these Protoss ground units for the time being. Protoss ground units, though, are marching back home. Trigger now with a 70 supply deficit. He doesn't have enough economy anymore to really sustain himself, but yeah, he's doing a really good job dealing with the army. Clem currently very split up around the map. It's It's mostly just medevacts that remain at this point, which is not the best army composition last time I checked. Even with the Caduceus reactor upgrade, Zealots over here dealing with some of the SCVs over at the golden minerals. Somehow, some way, even though Trigger is behind, he's been behind in the supply count for what seems to be like 5 minutes. He somehow is making a game out of this. Really? Really? Okay. Bunch of ghosts. Ah, dealing a bunch of damage there, killing a Nexus, finishing it off. Ghosts, the sickest spellcaster in the game. Not only some of the best spells, but also pretty nice, huh? They even have an ultimate, man. They have the nuke. Their auto attack is actually very menacing. Alright, I think what Clem is doing right now is the right thing, though. Take a bit of a breather. He must have realized by now that he's been destroying his opponent's army. Just sit back, remax. Didn't take very long. It only took maybe half a minute or so. But a few cycles of those unit-producing structures. Okay, he is going to be able to create another chokehold on another base. These are essentially the last Protoss units. They charge forward. But ultimately, Clem is just a little too good, and he does obtain the victory. Huh, would you look at that? So 30 Liberators died, and at the end of this game, 20 of them were out. That's pretty nice. Thank you for giving me an easy title for this video, Clem.